Welcome to our podcast, where we talk about the interesting, frustrating, and inspiring experiences we have as people with strongly held religious views working in corporate IT. We're not here to preach or teach you our religion. We're here to explore ways we make our career as IT professionals mesh, or at least not conflict, with our religious life. This is Technically Religious. Here on Technically Religious, we focus on how we work to make our religious lives complement, or at least not conflict, with our career in tech. But what about the way tech enhances our lives as people with a strong connection to our faith, or lack thereof? In our ongoing series, Tech in Religion, we aim to do just that. In each episode, we'll highlight technological innovations that enhance, strengthen, and deepen our connections to our religious, moral, or ethical point of view. I'm Adato, and sharing their reasoned, thoughtful, humble opinions with me today on the tech that helps our religion are Doug Johnson.
Hey.
And also a newcomer to the Technically Religious cast is Stephen Foskett.
Great to be here.
Great to have you. Okay, so as is our wont on Technically Religious, we're going to start off with shameless self-promotion. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, whatever you're working on that you want to bring to light for the listeners. And of course, we want to know your religious point of view. Doug, as the seasoned veteran, that means you're old.
All right, here we go. I'm an old guy. Yep, Doug Johnson. I'm my day job is I'm a web developer for Southwestern Health Resources. My side gig, which is going to make me a gazillionaire someday if I live long enough, is I'm the CTO for an RFID inventory company. So if you're somebody with an optical shop and you really want to do your inventory better, why check out waverfid.net. I can be found on all of the various and sundries, Facebooks, etc., as at Doug, D-U-G, Johnson. And I'm an evangelical Christian, but not one of those weird ones. We're allowed to dance, but not in the not in the aisles.
There we go. Okay, I didn't realize there was a delineation between
I should show you.
Aisle dancing evangelical Christians and non-aisle
I will tell you that aisle
dancing
white evangelical Christians have got better music than a lot of the rest of us. But yeah, it's
okay. All right.
Someday when we have nothing better to do, I'll show you. There's some great video out there.
We should record that. That'll be educational for everyone, or entertaining. We'll see. All right, Stephen, please help bring this a little bit of maturity and seriousness to this.
Well, I'm glad that you brought me in to bring you both down to earth, as it were. So, so I'm Stephen. My day job is running Gestalt IT and Tech Field Day. Maybe you didn't know this, but I am also a writer in the wristwatch community and quite active in the world of collectors there. And I do a podcast on artificial intelligence as well called Utilizing AI. As far as religion goes, I was raised as a liberal Christian in the Episcopalians in Connecticut and have since become even more loony left by going to the Unitarian Universalists and becoming essentially a humanist.
We take all kinds here, and it would take all kinds.
It's just this side of Buddhism. It's cool stuff.
I believe in people.
Right.
That's good. I think believing in people is not a bad position to take. All right, I will close the circle by providing my information, which probably the Technically Religious folks can repeat on their own, but we'll do it anyway. I am Leon Adato. I am a head geek. Yes, that is actually my job title, and I took it almost sight unseen when they offered it to me at SolarWinds, which is neither solar nor wind. It is a software vendor that makes monitoring solutions. You can find me on the Twitters, and I say it just that way to horrify Keith Townsend's daughter every time I say it. You can find me there at Leon Adato. I also am known to pontificate on things both technical and religious on my website, which is adatosystems.com, and I identify as an Orthodox Jew, and occasionally my rabbi will admit to knowing me. So there we go. That gives you an idea of what kind.
So you're like a liberal Orthodox.
Yes. Okay. Orthodox in terms of Judaism, not in terms of perhaps political or even, personal restraint.
Hey,
concept.
hush up there, you non-dancing evangelical.
Oh, you want to see non-dancing? You should come to my. Then it's then you can't. No mixed dancing. Like forget about it. It's the whole thing. All right. So tech in religion, which is what this series is called, focuses on finding technology that helps deepen, strengthen, or clarify our connection to our religious point of view or religious experience. So, Doug, I'm going to pick on you first. Do you have some technology that really helps you out with your being an evangelical, but not one of those kinds?
Yes. Well, I mean, I've got technology that helps me everywhere, and it enables it enables my religious practice because I am multiple things. Some of them good, but most of them are like I'm ADD or I'm now AAD, right? I was ADHD, and then I thought I was ADD, and then I found out I was ADHD, and then now it's AAD. I'm an adult. I
Attention
am.
deficit.
They keep on changing the letters on me, so I am whatever the current one is.
Yeah.
All right. But and I'm also have SAD, which is seasonal affective disorder, except now it's called depression, seasonal type, or who cares? I mean, it's just so some between the months of October and March, my brain stops, not completely, but it just becomes absolutely worthless. In fact, we have quite an indicator. I was late to this meeting because I forgot. It was on my calendar. It was everywhere. Things were beeping. I'm sure phones were going off. And, I just completely forgot. So everything that I have is basically designed around to keep my brain on target when I'm doing stuff.
Okay.
So the first one is Trello. Trello is basically used for managing projects, right?
I was going to say, when you put it on the list, when we were prepping for this, you put it on the list, I'm like, Trello, helpful for being an evangelical Christian. I wasn't going to make that connection, but
right.
I want to hear this.
Okay, so the question is, so what does your practice involve? I mean, do you do stuff for your church or your synagogue or whatever? Do you do projects? Do you work with people on things? Imagine that you were stuck with me on your committee and exactly, there you are. Now you understand. Keep in mind that people who are... Because I've been a Christian for so long, and because I actually do read the Bible and know the stuff that's in there, people always think, gee, this guy's really devout, which I am, but they don't also realize how flaky I am. And so by the time they find out how flaky I am, it's too late. They've already brought me in. They have me on committees. They have me doing stuff. One church made me a deacon. I mean, come on, think about this. So the reality is I have to go ahead and find ways so that I can get the things done that need to be done. The fact is, there's a lot of people in Christianity who are wound just a little bit tightly. Just a smidge.
I might have noticed that occasionally, but I wasn't going to attribute it to Christianity particularly.
Well, I don't
okay.
know. It's the group that I'm used to working with, and I will tell you that the ones who actually make it into any kind of leadership position, except for ones who are attributed to be devout, but they don't know I'm flaky yet, anybody that's actually really there, they're pretty tightly wound because they're, in Christianity, it's really easy to offend people. And so the people who really make it are really good at not offending people. Now imagine that you go ahead and give Doug something to do and he totally freaking forgets. Or waits till the last minute and there's like 15 people. Or, anything at all. So Trello allows me to go ahead and keep track of what it is that I have to get done, what I've promised, and it's easy enough to use that I can get other people on the committee to go ahead and assign me tasks in Trello, and now it's there and I can track it. Because if they just ask me to do it, I'll agree to it, and if I can write it down right then, fine, but the odds are by the time I get to my car, I've already forgotten.
Right. By the time you've turned around and said hello to the next person, you've
pretty much. It's what I say. When we were all in churches all the time, we were meeting and greeting each other, and I could have had a great conversation with you, and by the time I've talked to the third person after you, it's gone. So that's why. That's how Trello helps. I mean, I use it a lot of different places, but it does help me at church. It keeps me from getting kicked out of the church. I may get kicked out for another reason, but at least I don't get kicked out off the committee for not doing the work I'm supposed to do.
Got it. Okay, what's up next?
The next one's not actually an app. It's called the Pomodoro Technique. Pomodoro is Italian for tomato, and some Italian guy had a timer, a little spinner timer thing that looked like a tomato.
Aha.
And what he did was he came up with this. He would spin it to 25 minutes. He would work heads down for 25 minutes. When the timer went up, he would get up and walk away for 5 minutes. And then he'd come back and he'd spin it for 25 minutes and he would heads down and you would do one thing for that 25 minutes and then you'd get up. Another way, you can do it like 45 and then 15 or 50 minutes and 10, but it's a combination of block of time with a timer and then a break. Now, again, back to ADD, SAD, all those kinds of wonderful things. Now, the only way I get anything done, the only way I can go ahead and do stuff is to say, for the next 25 minutes, I'm going to read scripture. And I'll sit down and do it. Whereas if I sit down to go ahead and read and I'm like 3 verses in, I go, oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to go look at this other thing and I look up something on that and next thing you know, I've read 3 verses. It's 3 hours later.
You've read 42 Wikipedia, half of 42 Wikipedia articles.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You've built 3 websites partially.
Exactly. But I haven't.
And you're holding a chicken in one hand and an apple in the other.
Exactly. But I have not yet finished my scripture reading for the day. So,
of course not.
The Pomodoro Technique it helps me at work. But it also helps me with my spiritual life because I can go ahead and say, for this next 25 minutes, I'm reading scripture. Or for this next 25 minutes, I'm praying. Or what? And it's limited. It's time limited, time boxed. When that thing goes off, I can stand up and walk away from it and say, that's it. I did it. Good. It's like a spiritual discipline, except, not exactly.
I always
Except
wonder,
the exact opposite of being disciplined.
Except it's spiritual discipline for those of us who have no discipline whatsoever.
Right. And I just want to imagine God's side of that conversation, right? Like, you're praying for 25 minutes and, the beginning starts off real slow and real careful. And at the end, it's like, and then I went, oh, I'm done. Walks away. And it's like,
and again, it depends on how you pray. A lot of my prayer is like a couple things, and then I just shut up because really,
got it.
God talks to me a lot more than I need. He knows what's going on with me, and He knows it's really messed up. Okay, I mean that's just the way. He knows that. So I find it's a lot easier for me to just shut up and listen for God. And I always know it's God talking because He always asks me to do stuff that I would never come up with in a million years on my own. I once wrote a children's Christmas play that had 30 kids from the church in it that I directed and acted in because I knew that it would get the parents into church one day in the year that they would never have come in otherwise. Now that's from God because Leon knows I'm not a great fan of kids. It's just like
you're barely a people person, and you're not a small people person.
No, and they love me for God only knows why, but it just and so there it is. So that was God.
Got it.
So
okay. One more. We got one more. You only get 3 on these shows.
Okay,
So,
one more. This one's easy, and this one's relatively new to me. I came across it. It's called Habit Bull, as habit, the word habit, and bull as in a cow, except the male kind. Yes, moo.
I was thinking it was where the nuns put their hats.
Could be.
I haven't been on a farm a whole lot, but
Never.
don't mess with the bull.
Okay, there's all kinds of ways we
bowl, like a cylinder, like a half of a sphere.
Oh yes, no. In this case, the logo is like Hook'em Horns, Texas, University of Texas stuff, whatever. But basically, it allows you to go ahead and pick habits that you want to do, to go ahead and give it frequency, a cadence. Like I want every day, I want to do this, or 3 times a week, I want to do this, or in the next month, I need to do this once a week. So you can lay out what they are, and it gives you reminders. And as you mark them off, it gives you a string, which actually builds that. you've put a string of successes together, and after a while, you don't want to break the streak. So
Got it.
the beginning of this, the first time I used it at the beginning of this summer. When we were all locked down, I decided I should really start getting, and I got to like 80 or 90 days of walking 8,000 steps every day. And I can tell you that since I'm not doing that at the moment, I managed to get 8,000 steps at least twice a month. So
Wow.
when I use it, and so basically what I had scripture reading done, my daily scripture reading on Habit Bull, and that helps you maintain a streak. So it's really good. You get like 3 or 4 habits for the free version, and for I forget however much you can get unlimited habits that you want to track. But
I just keep thinking of the nuns. I'm sorry.
okay,
Like you can see it on his face that he's just thinking of the nuns. Unlimited habits. It's like a penny raid, but
How
in a
many
monastery.
can you put on at once?
and now we know why the Catholic Church doesn't like the rest of us.
There's
They've
still.
Oh well. In any case, I'm going to let all of that just go because I am much more kind than that. Yeah. Okay. Fine. None of us buy that. So okay, but those are my 3.
Great.
So-
For the last one, though, I like the idea of gamifying your spiritual experience. That, I mean, we really are, little monkeys sometimes as far as that goes. And, just feed the mice in the maze, or whatever metaphor
Yep.
you want to use. You get that one little burst of endorphin, and it just causes you to want to do more. And
Yep.
why not make your religious experience like that?
Exactly. Well, and that's why Trello works for me, because I get to check out. When my wife figured out that I like scratching things off lists, I mean, trust me, I get lists of things that she doesn't ask me to do anything more. She puts it on a list because she knows I'll check it off. So I am for better or worse. I'm not a good human being, but I'm a heck of a monkey. So just
Awesome.
so I use my tools to make me a better human being.
There we go. All right.
We're all just heck of a monkey, I think.
Yeah, well, we're all wonderful monkeys. The question is whether we can make ourselves into better human beings as well. I like it. All right, Stephen. I
Yes.
realize that was a very bizarre conversation to follow up on, but you've given us some thoughts, so I'm curious about the tech that you use.
All right. Well, I'm gonna first apologize for I'm gonna defend Facebook. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry, those of you who find that a sin. Frankly, it's terrible. We all know it's terrible. But it's also kind of not terrible. Because truly, I think that essentially we all need to find ways of connecting to each other. And frankly, it's where everyone is. And it's not only that, but if you squint and turn your head and mute enough, you can actually see some positives to it too. And, for example, here in my town, there's a terrible town Facebook group, and everyone has one of those. There's also a group where people go out in nature and take pictures of owls and trees and ponds and talk about how they've discovered something lovely and wonderful in the town. And somehow that group has not yet been polluted by red and blue comments. And it's just, wonderful. And it's the same thing, connecting with your family, maybe some people in your family you kind of don't want to connect with anymore. But you know what? It's important that we know who's graduating. It's important that we know who's sick and who's better. And it's important that we keep connected. And frankly, whatever makes that happen is, I think, a pretty good tool. And again, I don't want to say anything nice about them, but this is what makes it happen for me. Frankly, this is the tool that we're using to keep connected with our families. And, in the pandemic, I think that that's doubly important. People who have distributed families like me, that's incredibly important. And so, yeah,
Okay.
it's a great thing.
I can see the treatise now, in defense of Facebook. It's,
Right. I was away from it for a year, and I came back, and it's not terrible. I'm learning how to not follow people that really are just over the side. But I mean, there's a lot of good that's there. In fact, I miss Twitter because there were so many people that I enjoyed following, but everybody's just so wacko for a while there during the Trump
Yeah.
years. I'm hoping that it's just gonna chill some here.
Well, and there just to add one quick comment, which is a conversation that we were having. A friend of mine and I said, he said, "This is it. I can't deal with so and so anymore. I'm going to have to cut them out of my life." And they're saying all this stuff on Facebook. It happened to be that I can't deal with, and I can't follow. And into this conversation, my rabbi, who by the way is on Twitter, which is a whole other conversation, but okay, and he said, you don't actually have to listen to them. You could actually choose to mute. And again, this is my rabbi talking to me, the technology person, and my friend who is a programmer, and saying, they have these options so that you never see anything that they say at all. And that way you wouldn't have to hear the horrible things I'm not saying they don't say horrible things. I'm just saying this doesn't have to impact your relationship with them in the sense of, like, if the things they say bother you, don't read them because they don't say them in public.
Yeah.
Yep.
And honestly, that I'm gonna changing up my list here. I have to say that I've learned more about people, and I've gained a better appreciation from people from dealing with people on social media generally. Twitter. So here's the thing. The other month, I said something off the cuff that came off as incredibly stupid and insensitive. And it got retweeted a lot. Like, a lot. Like, I got probably 500 hateful comments from people. And it was enough that I actually just got another spate of them last week, because it's one of those famous things that keeps coming back. Look at this stupid guy and the stupid thing he said. But you know what's funny? And I think that this is, perfectly fitting for a context like this. The most remarkable thing is that I took the advice of all of the people that I admire and all the philosophers that I respect. And basically the answer was, you did the thing, recognize the humanity in these people. They're angry at you because of the way that they're perceiving you. And what can you do with that? And so instead of, and I haven't talked about this really much. So this is kind of a nice opportunity for me. Instead of, yelling at people or telling them, they're stupid, or muting everybody or deleting it. Instead, you know what I decided to do? I decided to write a response to every one of the people that contacted me, except if they swore at me. If they swore at me or called me a Nazi or something, I was just like, okay, I don't need to engage. This person is just angry. And engaging with somebody who's just angry is probably not good. But if they said something like, "You're so insensitive. What about women? What about the disabled?" I replied and I said, "You know what? I can see how you could get that from what I wrote. And I don't feel good about that. And that's not a reflection of who I am. And I'm sorry that you feel this way. And I'm sorry that I said something that..." And you know what happened next? What happened next was I got hundreds of responses back saying, "Wow, that was really nice. I really appreciated this response." I'm still talking to some of these people, 6 months later, who basically introduced themselves by saying, "You're an idiot and you're insensitive." And I have to say, I've actually learned a lot more about people, and I've learned how to work with people, and how to, and I've learned more respect and humility from a bad day on Twitter than I did in a lot of Sunday school.
Good.
Wow.
I totally get that. I mean, it's hard to go ahead and not strike back, and so that on your part is admirable, and you know, being able to go ahead and essentially own what you did and be willing to engage, and that I try and engage too. I offend people all the time. Not intentionally. There's people who do it
I
intentionally.
can vouch for the truth of this.
It is right. When people come to me and say I'm an idiot and I'm insensitive, I go, "Boy, you are so right." And what did I do today? All right, but again, being willing to own it and apologize for it if it deserves an apology, or to say, "Oh, I did not even think of it that way. I apologize." It goes a long way towards connecting with people.
Yeah, and
which I'm not great at.
What you find is that a lot of people are really hurting, and a lot of people are really angry at the situations that they see around them, and they're kind of ascribing things to these situations. And by basically opening up and listening, you can get a lot more out of it, and a lot of like real personal growth out of it. And really that kind of fits with my, my beliefs. I believe that, that people can transcend what they are and what they seem to be. And if you give them a chance, a lot of the time they will. And like I said, truly a lot of people are just angry. And, sometimes, you got to just let that burn out a little bit. So anyway, so I have definitely learned a lot more about that. And frankly, I feel like, the other things that I was going to talk about, unlike Doug, I absolutely do not have the Bible memorized. But I do have Blue Letter Bible on my iPad, and that lets me look stuff up and cross-reference it when I need to.
I think that overall, if there's one thing about just devices in our pocket at all, it's having access to a text that I am comfortable with, as opposed to having to arrive at a building and pull a book off the shelf that I might not be as familiar with or know where to find things or whatever. And in a language that I'm comfortable with, in a font size that I'm comfortable with. Like, I think that just the single most effective use of technology is personalizing the text in ways that are very personal to us. I think that makes a huge difference. So yeah, I can see that.
Yep. And the amazing power of computers to cross-reference is just, and in search is just incredible. I mean, to think that you can say, I want to find Doug, you're writing a sermon and you're like, I need to find that quote where Jesus says this one thing. And to be able to just click the little magnifying glass and you're there. You know what I mean?
And you find out it was actually Joshua who said it.
Yeah. Well, Jesus didn't say a lot of the things people think he said.
Right.
Yeah. And then I guess the final thing that I'll give a pitch to is, especially in the pandemic, I think a lot of people are in need of some personal connection and someone to talk to and someone to talk back. And yet we can't really go out. And so I never thought that I would be into audiobooks, but I gotta say, audiobooks are awesome. And being able to, to sit down and just listen as somebody reads you their book is, it's weird and cool. Also puts me to sleep, but at least you can go back again.
But in a good way. I mean, it is that comforting voice of somebody who has basically promised, no, I'm going to read to you until you're calm. I'm going to keep giving you some ideas that will distract you from the circle spinning of your brain, and I'll be there.
And there's something wonderfully soothing about somebody reading to you. I think it's like one of those things, like, we're, from when we're children, like we love to have somebody reading to us. And especially now, like I said, with the pandemic, everybody's trapped inside. You can at least sit and you can listen to somebody and you can kind of escape from this into your head in a good way. And, and I'm loving that.
so just to add on to that one, again, as people have been listening are familiar with, but if you're not familiar with Orthodox Judaism, on Shabbat, the Sabbath, from Friday night sundown until Saturday sundown, if it has an on switch, it's off limits. That's the easiest way to say it. So that means that, for 24, 25 hours, playing an audiobook or the television or any of those things is not going to work. So what's happened in our house is that I will read. We'll pick a book. We've worked our way through the Harry Potter series a couple of times, and I will read with all the voices, and that's what we do in lulls during the day. And then at night, the same thing. Like, my wife is sitting there, her brain is spinning with all the things that have to happen, whatever. And of course, your brain is spinning with things that have to happen that you cannot do because it's Shabbat, right? So now you have nowhere to put this and nothing to do with this. So what do? I sit there and I read. I read until she, falls asleep. And it's just sort of a delightful, and the kids all come trundling to the room. My kids are in their 20s. Okay, let's just be honest about this. So they come in and they've got their blanket and they lay, on the floor, whatever it is, and we read. And it's just,
That's about the nicest thing I've heard in months.
Yeah, it's fun, and they look forward to it. It's one more reason to look forward to what a lot of people are like, how can 24 hours without anything? How do you do that? And meanwhile, in my house, is like, is it Shabbat yet? Can't we have Shabbat now? Like, still got 2 more days to go, kid. Come on.
Can you do Dumbledore for us, please?
She may have taken you grudgingly, furiously, unwillingly, bitterly, yet she still took you. And in doing so, she sealed the charm I had placed upon you. Your mother's sacrifice made the bond of blood the strongest shield I could give you. While you can still call home the place where your mother's blood dwells, there you cannot be touched or harmed by Voldemort. He shed her blood, but it lives on in you and her sister. Her blood became your refuge. So that's Dumbledore.
I hear it. I'm really glad that you don't sound like the Dumbledore in the movies.
No. John Huston. John Huston is the voice of Gandalf and Dumbledore. Like, that is the wizard's voice. That's just in my head. That's what he sounds like. So anyway, back to our conversation, back to the topic. Audible books certainly are, a calming source, so that I can see how that would be good. Okay, so tell you what, after doing my Dumbledore impression, I'm gonna wrap this up with a couple of recommendations of mine, just 2 of them. The first one is something that I mentioned in another episode, hebcal.com, and I said that right as Stephen was taking a drink, so now I owe him a new keyboard because he just spit all over it. hebcal.com, that's actually a website, and it is a calendar that will give you all the different holidays and times and things like that. Incredibly useful because the Jewish calendar can be insanely complicated, and that's something I mentioned in the other episode. But what I wanted to bring out here is that there's 2 particular features on that website. First one is, after you have created your customized calendar that shows the things that you want and not the things that you don't want, you can export that to an iCal format. So it's not just like you have to go back to that website every time you want something. You can create your own calendar, including things like, the anniversary of people's deaths with it called a yard site, which is very important. You can output that in the iCal format and have that sort of in perpetuity, year after year. You can have it built into your calendar. And I find that that's especially useful because it's easy to forget that it's the first night of Hanukkah, because it changes from year to year across the regular calendar. The other part is that, and this is very, very, technically religious, there's an API. There's an actual Restful Json API. So if you're building your own application that needs to grab a Hebrew date, or what Torah reading, what Torah portion is that week, or what time sundown is, or whatever, or what holidays are coming up, you can actually make a function call to the website through their API and grab all that information back and use that. And as a technologist who has written a couple of, WordPress modules and things like that, it is incredibly helpful because they've done the legwork on all the really hair on the knuckles, hard calendar programming that is so difficult to do. So that's the first one.
Sweet.
And
I really want to know if you can do a JSON post of why is this night different from any other night.
And get answers back.
Yeah, that would be an API to subscribe to.
I can.
It actually would be a get.
Well, hold on. Okay,
no. That's something very different.
Unless you're going to unless you're sending your answer.
No. What you need to do is you need to have the URL, and the first variable is which son you are.
Right.
Because that's going to tell you what the return. So it would be a get function.
All right, I know what I'm doing this weekend.
Yep. Bracket quote.
Right.
I have to tell you, I'm grateful for HebeCal because I remember Leon talking to me probably 10, 15, 12 years ago about how we were going to build this thing. And fortunately, they got it built before I had to do it.
Right.
We started talking about this, and I'm going, oh, my God.
Right? And I don't know nearly enough to be able to spec that out appropriately either. So, no, it
would have been... We'd still be working on it.
Yeah, we would. And it would still be horrible. It would never work right anyway.
Exactly. But so thank you, HebeCal.
Thank you. So, and the last thing I want to bring up is just a website, yeahthatskosher.com. No, really, that's the website. Yeahthatskosher.com. There are a lot of websites that talk about whether a thing is kosher or not. This is actually a restaurant review website, and the guy who runs the website does a lot of traveling, did a lot of traveling, lives in the New York area, and he highlights the restaurants that are new and opening and what kind of cuisine they have. And honestly, is it good? Is it run of the mill? Is it, no, you really need to skip this place? He really does a good job of keeping up to date so that when I'm in a new city, typically I can rely on that to know what some of the places like I don't want to miss, or it's, I don't need to pay the cab fare or the Uber or Lyft ride to get out there. It's going to be a hot dog, and that's going to be the end of it, or whatever it is. So that, especially as somebody who travels to conferences and things, it helps me to know when there's a new place, like, oh, I've been in Vegas. No, they have a steakhouse now. They have a kosher steakhouse. I would actually give away one of my children, and I can name which one, for the steak that I have. I have fonder memories of the tomahawk steak I had there than I have of at least one of my kids. It's a really good kosher steakhouse. So but those are the kinds of things you can get from that. So that's very helpful, unless you're one of my kids. So that's it. That's the episode. I'll quickly go to the lightning round. Any final words or things that you want to add? Yeah, Steven.
I really want to add something from my other world, from the world of watches.
Oh,
there is a remarkable watchmaker who created a wristwatch that has the full Muslim calendar built into it, and it actually shows the correct Islamic date using the phases of the moon.
Oh, very nice.
One of the coolest things about mechanical watches are all the cool things you can do with gears. So just imagine your API that tells us which day or which month it is. Okay, now do that with gears.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to look this up, it actually won one of the highest awards in watchmaking in 2020 because it was a pretty remarkable achievement. So
Great.
Yeah, it's by a company called Parmigiani, which is not Pomodoro, but it still has some pretty good technique.
So it's not the tomato, it's the cheese.
Yes.
That's great. And we'll have the links for everything that we talked about in the show notes. Okay, great. That's cool. Doug, any final comments?
Nope. I like all the stuff. I've used all the stuff that Steven uses. Probably not as effectively as he has, but it's good. I mean, there's just a lot of good stuff out there. I was just thinking today, I read through the calendar thing, this today in calendar, and I realized how much stuff has happened since I was born. Queen Elizabeth became Queen Elizabeth about 3 months before I was born.
Did you know that Betty White really is older than sliced bread?
Yes, I saw
True
that.
fact.
That's funny. I did not know that.
She's something like 3 or 4 years older than sliced. Yeah.
And that's the important stuff that we have now. The good thing about having only a partial brain, at least for half of the year, is now we've got technology that fills in the rest of it,
Right.
so that I can make it look like I actually deserve to exist on this.
You're a functional adult, right?
Yeah, I get a lot more done now than I used to, and even though my brain is not working at full, I I've got systems and tools set up that sort of prop me up.
Well, can I just make a pitch? I think what the best technology tool to help religious people would be a head-up display inside your glasses that tells you who is that person, what was I talking to them about last time, and what's their mother's name.
Yep.
I think that would really help.
Well, as soon as, I was going to say there's a new batch of AR glasses that somebody's coming out with that look a lot better than the ones we've had so far. So maybe that'll be my next side gig after I make my $1 billion on this first one.
There we go.
Or actually 43rd one, whatever one I'm on.
Well, I definitely appreciate all the parts of your brain that you decided to bring to the show today.
Late.
And whenever you chose to bring them, look, we're very flexible here, and we're doing this, for fun. So it ain't like we're gonna dock your paycheck for it. So I appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate it. Thanks. I love this.
Good.
Human beings
Right.
that I like. Oh my God.
Right.
I'm
That's
just
amazing.
glad to be able to meet Doug.
Yeah. Well, he's.
Oh, you say that now.
Yeah. Someday soon we'll get together. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
Bye now.
Thank you for making time for us this week. To hear more of Technically Religious, visit our website at technicallyreligious.com, where you can find our other episodes, leave us ideas for future discussions, or connect with us on social media.